This is the Isle of Wight's route for Train Simulator. It was originally released by Just Trains as an add-on for the old Rail Simulator. In June 2012, the route was upgraded to be compatible with today's version of Train Simulator, and in February 2015, Dovetail Games issued a patch and made various improvements to the route. The route retails at £9.99. The Isle of Wight lies approximately 2 miles off the south coast of England and is Britain's second smallest county. The island formerly had its own railway network of over 55 miles, but only the Island Line remains in regular use today. Running for just under 9 miles, it stretches from Shanklin to Ryde Pierhead. Intermediate stations are at Ryde Esplanade, Ryde St John's Road, Smallbrook Junction, Brading, Sandown and Lake. Today, the line is operated by South Western Railway. It is notable for using old London Underground rolling stock due to the small size of its tunnels and unmodernised signalling. The Island Line is mostly single track and electrified on the 750 volt DC third rail. Signals consist of a mixture of colour lights and old-fashioned semaphores. Branching off the Island Line at Smallbrook Junction is the heritage Isle of Wight Steam Railway, which runs for 5.5 miles to the outskirts of Wootton on the former line to Newport. The steam railway is also included with this route, and what is currently a fictitious physical link joins the two lines together. The track is non-electrified and mainly single throughout. The signals are strictly semaphore, and there are 2 intermediate stations, one at Ashy, the other at Haven Street. For such an early route, the scenery is fantastic. The colouring is nice and vibrant, and the custom models show very good attention to detail. If you decide to take in the scenery at Ryde Pier, for example, you may also see a hoverboat arriving from the mainland. As mentioned earlier, the Island Line utilises former London Underground rolling stock, and this is due to the height of the tunnel that allows trains to pass beneath Ryde Esplanade. The trains date back to 1938. With the Island Line now being part of a national network, they are officially referred to as Class 483s. Underground aficionados like myself, however, will always refer to them as the 1938 tube stock. Built by Metro Camel, the 1938 stock could be seen in use on several underground lines during their operational life. In order to replace life-expired 1920s tube stock, Network South East acquired 10 trains from LUL. following their retirement of service on the Northern Line during the 1980s. Those purchased were overhauled at LUL Acton and extensively refurbished at British Rail's Eastleigh Works. At 80 years old, these trains are the oldest to run in revenue service on the national network. There are currently no plans to replace these units, and there is much debate over the future of the Island Line, whether more former tube stock will be cascaded or the line sees a conversion to light rail. Only time will tell. In the simulator, the trains are represented in Network South East livery and London Underground red, the latter utilising yellow cab ends as per visibility regulations. LU, being a privately run system, saw no need to have yellow ends on their train cabs, as the trains tend to spend the majority of their time running underground. Externally, the model shows nice attention to detail. Internally, both the cab and passenger view also have some good details. I particularly like the seater maquette, which at one time was used on the former Metropolitan Line A-stock trains. The passenger view also sports two camera angles, and the camera itself is very flexible, allowing you to see some nice views. Bearing in mind that the cab was made to be small and compact by design, my only major problem is that when you try to drive a train without the HUD, you are forced to move the camera away from the view of the line in order to see the speedometer. In terms of actually driving, the 1938 stock is okay, but it could have been a bit better. The running sounds are fairly disappointing. Whilst I'm not that bothered about the sounds made by the wheels on the track, there is none of that distinctive tube car traction motor whine, or the bell that sounds in the driver's cab once the guard has closed the doors. The intermittent generator also doesn't have that distinctive whirring sound either. I also find that the familiar kettle whistle is also badly looped. I know that this was an early model, but I do wish that some extra time could have been put into better translation of the running sounds and the simulation of certain aspects, like the way power is regulated and how the train brakes. Apart from that, I'm still quite happy to drive this train every now and then, but it could have been better. Invincible is a Hawthorne Leslie 040 saddle tank engine built at Newcastle in 1915. She was first introduced to service in Woolwich and worked alongside 17 other similarly built engines shunting around the extensive railway system there. Invincible was withdrawn from service in 1955 when, following a period of storage, she was given a complete overhaul before being passed to the Royal Aircraft Establishment in Farnborough. Following the closure of the establishment's railway system in 1968, Invincible was purchased by Tom Jeffries of Southampton, who placed it on loan to the Wight Locomotive Society in 1971. Following the death of Mr. Jeffries, the ownership of Invincible was passed to the Wight Locomotive Society in 1979. The overall model quality of Invincible is good. I think that it still holds up today. The textures appear to be clean, and the colouring of the engine really stands out to me. Internally, the cab also has good amounts of detail, and honestly, that's about it. I can't really say any more about the visuals. Now don't get me wrong, I do like steam engines, but I just don't have the time nor the interest in driving them. On the odd occasion that I load one up in Train Simulator, I use the additional aids plus the F4 HUD. Like the 1938 stock, Invincible is simply okay to drive, and it gets me from A to B without any fuss. Being such an early model, the locomotive has had its running sounds recycled from a rail simulator Stania Black 5. To be honest, I'm okay with that, as I barely drive it anyway. However, it would have been nice if the developers had gone out and recorded sounds from a real thing, as it would have added to the authenticity. The Premier Quip is a bit of an oddity, and one of those bonus extras put in by the developers. Little is known about it, but it was apparently built for British Rail in 1985 and was capable of carrying up to 9 people. It also apparently has an inbuilt hydraulic turntable so that the train can be turned back to face the opposite direction of travel at any time. This feature, however, isn't simulated. The one represented here is based on number 68809 and is available in both blue and yellow engineering livery. It also comes with a support wagon. Today the train is preserved in Network South East livery on the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. The model itself is extremely bare bones. Externally, the level of detail is very good. Internally, however, it isn't so good. To start with, there are no visible controls, so you'll have to drive this unit with visual aids. The cab is very dark inside, with only seats visible. There are 2 camera angles, and you can rotate it a full 360 degrees. When it comes to driving it, don't expect to go anywhere fast. Its small diesel engine will only reach a maximum speed of about 28 miles an hour, and that's when it's running light engine. Braking performance is good. Notably, however, the throttle has a very long way to travel from 0 to 100%. The only things that you'll actually see working on this train are the wipers and the main headlights. The windows and lighting benefit from the TSX engine. As for the sounds, well, I don't actually know how this unit is supposed to sound like in real life. I don't even know if any attempt was made to record sounds from the actual unit when it was originally being developed, though there does seem to be a lot of old Kuju engine noises. You don't get any real sense of movement, or any soul for that matter. That said, as with Invincible, I'm not really fussed by the sound, or even how it handles, as this is something that I never drive anyway. It's also worth noting that there is no documentation with this in the route manual either, leading me to believe that this model was left as an afterthought. As a gimmick, it works, but it isn't something that I would recommend for full-time use. In total, 18 scenarios are included, the bulk of which alternate between the 1938 stock and Invincible. However, there is also one scenario for the Premier Quip as well. Scenarios are fictional, but they test you in many different ways, and you get to see the route in various seasons and at various times of the day. Scenarios all tend to run for under 60 minutes, which is good for those of you who may only have time for a quick run. The rolling stock is also quick drive compatible, so you can take them onto practically any route at any time. Overall, I would fully recommend the Isle of Wight route for Train Simulator. The route looks fantastic and it feels immersive. Whilst not perfect, the rolling stock also show good levels of detail and are perfectly drivable. The vintage rolling stock makes the island's railways feel like a working museum. It's still a gem nonetheless. If you want to challenge yourself to drive some very different types of traction and experience this quirky outpost of Britain, the Isle of Wight should match your expectations. If you liked watching this video and would like to stay up to date, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. To ensure that a video reaches your subscription feed, please turn on notifications by clicking on YouTube's notification bell. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter for further updates. Thank you for watching and take care.